Forget the noise. The Seattle Seahawks are playing phenomenal football right now. The defense, under our new staff, is utterly suffocating, ranking near the top of the league in points allowed. And the offense, it's electric. Look at the film. Jackson Smith-Njigba is emerging as a true superstar receiver, dominating the yardage charts, while Kenneth Walker III is running with power that sets the tone every week. Quarterback Sam Darnold is having his most efficient season yet, making smart, aggressive plays that keep defenses honest. The whole team is clicking, and it's clear they're a serious threat. Here's what a recent podcast said about the Seattle Seahawks.
The NFC is just kind of crazy right now with, I think, 6 teams. Oh, now you have the Vikings, but 6 teams at 5-2. And it feels like every week talked about a different team being able to pull away. Right now, the focus is on Detroit for absolutely fair reasons. But I think for me, Bill, the Seahawks are so much better than I thought they'd be, even if there are flaws that you can point to. What about you? How do you see them in terms of just the NFC picture?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think it's really, I look at even the Lions, I look at some of the teams that are in this 5-2 tier, and I just sort of think, okay, like, what are the reasons to think they might get better? What are the reasons to think that they have something they can add here? And with the Seahawks, I sort of look at the Devon Witherspoon case, right? I mean, if you were going to think about, okay, why is this defense going to be really good? Who's going to be standing out? Devon Witherspoon would be one of the very first names you would mention, and deservedly so. He is a phenomenal football player, but he's now missed pretty much the entire season outside of, I think 1.5 games or so. And that is not, to me, a reason to think they're going to not take a step backwards. To me, I think that's an opportunity to get better. I think that's a spot where you're going to be sitting here maybe a few weeks from now and saying, man, the defense even got to another level because they got Devon back. And I think about all these players that have improved with Mike McDonald in his second season. I think about the range of things they've been able to accomplish. I mean, there's just not that many teams you can say, we throw the ball well, we defend the pass well, we defend the run well, and then haven't run the ball consistently every week, but we've seen them run the ball effectively for stretches. And so I just think that range of things they can call upon is rare, even among these teams at the top of the NFC.
Hey, going back to some of the moves that John Schneider has made, how do you view Nick Mawari and how he's been acclimated to this defense? What do you think of his play?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's still kind of getting in the swing of things after the injuries early in the year. But it was very clear they drafted him for a very specific role, right? Like, I think they really saw him as that big safety, that guy who could be a physical force. And he's still kind of figuring things out a little bit, but I do think that's the best sort of version of this defense. And again, I think getting Witherspoon back is going to impact things because he can play in the slot, he can play outside. I think they're going to have to find the right role for him. But I do think that's going to make Mawari's life easier as well. So I just want to see these, the 5 guys who they were clearly counting on before the season actually play a snap together, because it's going to be really exciting. I think they're going to open up a lot of possibilities, not just in the secondary, but now it opens up so many opportunities for you in terms of whether you want to blitz, whether you want to rush. You can do a lot more stuff if you trust the 5 guys you have back there at defensive back.
Hey, Bill, I'm not going to hold you to this specific answer about the NFC West, because I think all of our opinions are going to change as the year goes on with the 3 top teams, Rams, 49ers, Seahawks at 5-2. The 49ers beat the Rams in a tight Thursday night game. You had the Rams just overwhelm the Jags, and then the Seahawks beat them, not quite as dominantly, but still the Seahawks have, I think, the best defense of the 3. I have a hard time filtering through, even with some bias of just knowing Seattle more. I have a hard time kind of organizing these 3 and figuring out who comes on top. And I know that the Rams were favored heading into the season and that the 49ers were kind of a sexy pick, but I have so many questions about all 3 of these teams. Right now, pause in time at heading into kind of getting out of week 8. How do you organize or look at them?
I think I would still have kind of the Niners in a tier below the Rams and the Seahawks. Obviously, the Niners, I think, deserve a lot of credit for what they've accomplished. They were a team I picked to make the playoffs before the year, so I'm a little biased maybe from that perspective. But I do think just the sheer number of injuries they have, I know they've done a great job of overcoming it, but it's just going to be hard to do over an entire season. You're talking about, so many of your top defensive players to pull off. It's just going to be tough to keep that up. And then I think I have the Rams and Seahawks kind of right neck and neck. And I think it's honestly been a little surprising to me because of who the quarterbacks are, but it feels like the Seahawks are more consistent than the Rams are. It feels like the Rams with Matthew Stafford with that passing game feels like you get a little more inconsistency, a little more sloppiness from week to week. And that, I think, is the part that I'm surprised at, because if I told you, hey, Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, who's going to be more consistent, I think a lot of people, understandably so, would pick Matthew Stafford just because of his pedigree, his experience. They've seen him play at the highest level. They've seen him win a Super Bowl. But I don't think he's been a more consistent quarterback this year. So I think that maybe the Rams have a little bit of a higher ceiling. I think when they've been at their best, they've been maybe the best team in football. I think that's how dominant they've been. Obviously, that Jags game in London being a good example. But I just think the Seahawks have been a little more consistent. Maybe they're a better team on a weekly basis than the Rams are. So still figuring it out like you and like everyone else. But I could see cases for the Seahawks or the Rams.
The AFC North was one of the better divisions the last few years. This year is down a little bit, obviously, because mainly because of the Baltimore Ravens, right? Do you think it's a wrap for them? Do you think they find a way to get back into playoff contention, or do you think it is what it is over there?
No, I do think they have a shot, but I think more than anything, it's because their schedule is really easy. I mean, I think they have the Jets coming up. They have a game against the Browns coming up. They have one of the easier schedules in football. To me, the question is just this defense is like, I mean, I'm 42, so I most of my adult life has been with the Baltimore Ravens having a really good defense. I almost don't know what to do with myself when I watch the Ravens defense, and it's bad. It just feels like something in the universe is off versus what I'm used to now for 3 decades of this Ravens franchise. So the defense has been so abysmal this year. But that's the part that really concerns me. They did figure it out last year. Remember, as time went on, though, they were struggling early in the year. They moved Kyle Hamilton back to free safety, make some changes. They cut Marcus Williams, who had been a big free agent addition for them. And they were dominant towards down the stretch, second half of the year on the defensive side of the football. So we've seen them improve in season before. I just think they're going to get a little better on defense. I totally buy that the offense was great with Lamar Jackson, and he's coming back. So that each week schedule, and I don't know, I'm still skeptical of the Steelers. If they're going to win their 9 games, they're going to make it as a wild card at the very least. Maybe they'll win the division, but I just don't think there's a great football team in there. So I do think the Ravens have a viable shot.
Okay, very related to your point about the Steelers, and something that I've been thinking about when it comes to the Colts, who I do see is fundamentally differently, but something you've probably had to decide every year. When do you decide that a team that has surprised you is actually good?
Yes, that's a great question. And so I think because I'm a natural skeptic, and I'd rather be late on a team than too early, maybe, I sort of like come up with these questions in my head. I'm like the Seahawks, the Colts week 1, they played the Dolphins. Dolphins defense was terrible. That was very clear on tape, and obviously it's proved to be true. Daniel Jones hit a bunch of deep shots. It's like, okay, well, that's not how Daniel Jones is going to play football. They played a weak defense. They played from ahead. I don't buy that. Then the next week they play the Broncos. Next week or the week later, within the next couple of weeks, they play the Broncos. Great defense. They score a bunch of points. They win the game in the last second. They hold their own. Daniel Jones doesn't turn the football over. Okay, well, that gives me a reason to believe in your offense. If you're doing it week after week and you're kind of answering those questions, maybe it's not, a bunch of fluke-long plays. Maybe it's not that you're just dominating the turnover battle. Maybe it's not that you're always playing from ahead. You're not always playing weak defenses. If you have a resume that kind of survives those questions, that's when things change. And so we've seen the Colts do this now for 7 weeks of football. I actually went and looked and said, okay, like if you're the best offense in football after 7 weeks, do those teams fall apart? And the answer is no. Every one of those offenses going back through, I think, 2000, finished the year in the top 10. So I think the Colts are going to slip a bit, and obviously there's the Daniel Jones injury risk, but he's taking hits way less often than he did in years past. He has I think the lowest sack rate in all of football after running one of the highest sack rates during his time with the Giants. So I really buy what the offense is doing. You're seeing them create a lot of easy, smart, thoughtful completions. They're getting the most out of their talent. I just, everything about it screams at this point sustainable. So it took me a couple weeks, maybe after the Broncos game was the moment where I thought, okay, this is an offense we have to respect and appreciate. And they've done nothing since then to make me think otherwise.
How legit are the Bears? I like this story. I love seeing the development of Caleb Williams. You got Rome over there, a UW guy. 4 wins in a row, but the opponents haven't been great. What are your thoughts on the Bears?
It's still a work in progress. That's not an insult. Like, that's a kind depiction. Like, I'm not trying to say that to diminish what Caleb Williams has done. You see some really impressive moments. Like, and it's not even like the big plays; it's more the little things. I watched a play this week where they had a free rusher on him coming through the A gap, and that's a moment where, as a quarterback, you might panic, you might take a sack, you might freeze, you might try to run for your life. And Caleb just very quickly got to his check down, got to his hot route, threw an accurate pass to DJ Moore, and it created like a 30-yard completion because it was, it was a big blitz, and so he was 1-on-1 against a cornerback. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more consistency with that stuff. He's running, I think, the lowest completion percentage over expected of any quarterback in football, which tells me, number one, the Bears are creating a lot of viable, safe completions for him. And number two, he's not always getting to those options. And so I believe in the talent, and I believe in what I've seen so far, but it's still a work in progress. The big thing for me, the thing that really stands out is, okay, if this is real, then I buy the offense, is the run game. Let's go back to Detroit. Ben Johnson and that Detroit Lions rushing attack, that's what really sort of underpinned that entire team. It was Jared Goff and play action off of that. And so last couple of weeks, DeAndre Swift has been a much, much better running back. Kyle Monangai has looked impressive for them as kind of their, 1-2 punch at running back. If they can reliably run the football, I do think Caleb Williams is going to be in great spots to, play well, work off of play action, and hit some shots downfield. And I think that's a viable plan for that offense.
Make sure you are always reading Bill's work at ESPN.com. He is ESPN's Bill Barnwell. Thanks.